Hello viewer, welcome to Chungu cha Jamii. I'm your host Eunice Mugo. Today on the show we are talking about men's mental health. This is a conversation that it's affecting our society. It's very much on the rise. Do you have someone, a brother, a husband, a cousin who is male and is going through mental issues? How are you interacting with them? How are you able to help them out? Please send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. I'm not alone. I have guests with me who are going to help us to understand better on how to deal with mental health. I will allow them to introduce themselves. Welcome guests, starting with you.
Thank you. I'm Felix. I'll be talking about what we usually go through as men in this life. Thank you.
Welcome on the show, Mr. Felix, and to you, sir.
Well, my name is David Njero, Reverend David Njero. I'm a pastor with Transformational Ministries Road Treasure Church here in Nairobi, Kenya. And apart from being a pastor, I'm also a leadership trainer and a leadership coach. I'm a counselor and a youth mentor. And today we'll be delving into this issue of mental health, especially the men. And I'm also an author. I've written a book, You Are Not a Failure. And regardless of where you are, there is hope. Join us as we continue with this program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis, for joining us today. Thank you for honoring our invite. To start with, yesterday we had this conversation and we wanted to move as you also get to talk to Felix here and help us to understand better what men or boys go through generally. So yesterday we left our viewer with a question that we were interacting with them through a conversation online, and maybe to pick it up from there as we continue with this conversation, I'd just read it out. The two questions that we were asking, or the conversation, how we wanted it to continue, was what changes would you like to see in the way the society addresses men's mental health in the next decade? The second one was, how can we better educate young boys about mental health to prevent issues later in life? I think with those two is what is going to shape our conversation today. And maybe to start with, the second question suits you best. How can we better educate young boys about mental health to prevent issues later in life? Not only young boys, but men generally, the young men in our society.
What I can say is we are supposed to educate men how to tackle issues and how to deal with issues. And also, like, for you ladies, you're supposed to be our helpers, not killers and kama mzigo, you know. Yeah.
You've rightly said we are supposed to be your helpers, not to see them mzigo, rather burdens. Yes. Maybe to start from the, could you tell us briefly about your story?
Just imagine being at around 20 years. Alafu kona mtoto. So like everything is upon you. Imagine no unalipa rent, ni unashughulikia mtoto, like your head ni kama inataka kubust. They usually say that you just think of being suicide, vitu kama hizo.
A question maybe as I delve deeper in you. Allow me.
Yes.
At 20, you are a father, you're paying rent, you're taking responsibility.
Sure.
A general question that a logical parent would ask, who sent you there? Easy accident, easy by accident. Bro, easy accident. How did you find yourself
like,
there?
Kuna kitu inaitwa adolescence. So being adolescence means what? Just getting someone.
You want
like
to
your
explore.
helper.
No,
yeah, you want to explore.
It is at a very young age, depending with where you're schooling and who
But let
are
me ask
teaching
you.
you.
Adolescence inaanzia miaka ngapi?
Ndio, adolescence starts from 12, 13 years.
Alafu siko na hizo feelings.
But
and you want to express them.
No, who said you have to express them?
God
Who said you have to express them?
Person.
No, it's okay to express, but how are you expressing it? Like right now, we are having a conversation, Mr. David. You
Yes.
can join the conversation.
Yeah.
Right now, we are having a conversation. We
Yeah.
are interacting, right? You're expressing your feelings, but does it necessarily mean you have to go out of your way?
I would actually come in and say, Felix, thank you for sharing that story, even where you are right now. And we can ask a lot of questions. How did you find yourself there?
Sure.
And of course, maybe it was not, you did not think it through. You did not probably sit down and say, this is exactly what I want my life to be at 20. Probably there is an emotion that pushed you to do something that probably now you are regretting. But of course, it is never too late. There is always a coming back again. You can reshape yourself. You can have a mental shift change. Of course, that comes when you say that I am in this. I am not comfortable with this. What can I do so that others also can learn from this story?
Sure.
Because you become now a good example. It is like you are selling your story so that somebody else can be helped. Talked about adolescents, Eunice. I'm very surprised nowadays. There are even some parents who are allowing their teenagers as early as 14 to introduce their boyfriends and girlfriends at home. And my question is, what next? And of course, the parent will say, they're just interacting.
This is Generation Gen Z. Allow me to interrupt you on
Yeah.
that and come back to him since he's in that category,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
As the man you are today, with the age you have, now that you've stated at 20, if you were to address yourself to go back to some years back, let's say 15 years, or that 20 years that you feel was so hard on you, what advice would you give yourself now? If you're to meet either yourself, let me phrase this correctly, or your brother or your son at that stage who is taking more like the same steps like you did.
I will just say, like, there's time for everything. Imagine being at 20, na tuseme hauna kitu kama tuseme job, wherever you're working, how will it feel? So like, kuna time ya kila kitu. So I'll just like advise people, when your right times come, they're supposed to marry.
Which is the right time according to you?
When you have money.
Really?
I think so.
Well,
David,
well,
when is the right time to marry?
Well, money is not a factor.
I think so. That's
Money is
according
not
to
a
me.
factor in marriage.
I agree with
Money is not a
David. The
factor.
money is not a factor in
just,
marriage.
just to help us in this conversation. You mentioned that there's time for everything. But you also mentioned that you found yourself in that mess because you wanted to experiment. Now, this kind of an experiment, we are not lab. We are not test tubes. We aren't. And, some of these experiments are explosive because the main thing actually is the decision. I would say that is the decision because maybe nobody guided you or nobody guides men as much as they are young to make some sober decisions.
Sorry
If
for
somebody
interrupting
is in school, that is time to do studies.
Okay.
All right.
Let's hear from
All
him
right,
as you
let's hear from
continue
him.
to
Yes.
advise.
Yeah.
Let's say, uko unataka, like, you get a child, then all of a sudden he or she comes in.
No, how unataka aje? My question would be, we've had the slogan of chill out from teenage sex and teenage pregnancy. That's a slogan that has been there. That's something that we've been taught on and off. In school, you're having activations and all these things. In chemistry, in biology, you've been taught. If you indulge yourself in sexual activities, by the end of it, consequences ni pregnancy. If not pregnancy, STDs. If not STDs, something else, right? So while you're getting there, you knew. True or false? Tell us more.
But you're not keeping that in mind
Why?
because you're practicing something.
Why should
out
you
of
even
adolescence.
practice? Like David has said, why should you even practice to start with?
Because it's like human nature. I think so. Ulijipata, it's like just a cult. Ni kama venye mtu anaweza enda jipate yeye ni Mkristo, another one a Muslim.
If you say it like that, what comes to your mind, Mr. Davis? Maybe you can take us through this, because
Yes.
when he's saying like that, in my mind, I'm thinking it's, unajua, you've used something very heavy. It's like a cult or a religion where you find yourself. You never chose to be born maybe as a Christian. You never chose to be born as a Muslim.
Yeah.
You found yourself there. That was God's plan,
And
right?
given a chance, you can change something.
Yeah, you can change if
Yeah.
you want, right?
Yeah.
Because you never chose to be born in that family,
True.
right? In that religion. But when you're growing later in life, you can change. But in your situation is much different. You choose to be there because, would you say, Mr. Davis says that a lot of people don't get the right advices and mentorship, but that one not being forgotten, would you say you never knew the consequences that will happen if you're to go into that direction?
Okay. I knew, but I never knew it would come, you know.
So backfire.
So ulienda na kimauru.
But I knew.
So you wanted to prove
Given the
yourself.
chance to retrieve your steps, would you do things the same way you did, or would you do it differently?
Absolutely not. I'll do it differently.
How so?
Maybe I just want a good life, and according to a good life, maybe najua tuseme mtu akipata tuseme mtoto in 20 years kama alikuwa shule, that means ataacha shule. Because you cannot take care of your kid alafu bado unaenda shule because of money. I think so. I'll just retrieve myself, go back to school and do everything. Yeah.
I think the dynamics of life, allow me to say this, the dynamics of life puts us in that position whereby, as he's saying rightfully, right now, if he's to retrieve his steps, he would do it differently. But if you're to talk to a Gen Z today and tell him or her to do it differently and to learn from your mistake, what are the highest chances that they will take your advice, David?
Well, just going forward, you know, our guest here has also shared with us his own story. And one of the things that is coming out very clearly is that some actions that he did not have a foresight. A foresight is what I'm doing today. What are the most likely consequences and how will they affect me and the people around me? Because for him, he was looking for the pleasure of the minute. But then he has now to live with the scars and the consequences.
For life.
Of course, for him is a good example of not how to take life. The Gen Z you mentioned about the Gen Z, they are my friends. Most of them actually, I interact with them. I interact with primary school kids, secondary school kids, university graduates, or those who are still in the university, those who have already young professionals. And you know, in my youth mentorship, so we have normally very good conversations. And what comes out with the Gen Z now, they want success instantly. They don't want to go through the process. But then I tell them, excuse me, hold your horses. You have time. If you have 20, if you are 20, 22, you still have like 50 years to live. Then think about how you want to be in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time. Because even if somebody wants to get married to somebody who is already settled in life, when did he get settled in life? And even the Gen Z again, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them, they want probably to go to an organization and they want to scale up the ladder within a short period of time. They want to go into the to employment today, and tomorrow they're driving. Next week they're having their own bungalow. Next month they're flying South Africa, North Africa, Europe, Asia, you know. And because life has a pattern, life is progressive from one step to the other. As much as we may have missed some of the people to guide us in life, I would advocate for two things. Number one is to have a mentor, somebody who can be able to speak to you, look at you straight in the eye and say, it is wrong what you are doing. And you see, a moment of anger and frustration can actually cause some grievous effects in somebody's life. Some of them are very, very devastating. He mentioned about suicide. Suicide is very common in today's Gen Z. Why? Because they want either their way or the highway. Why the highway? Because if not their way, they will show you how they can be able to fly away out of your presence. Some other times, they take us as the old folks. But thank God, because we have wisdom, we have knowledge. At least we have some history. We can be able to show where we have come from up to where we are. Of course, we need to be friends with them. We need to understand them. We need to listen to them. We don't need to talk to them, but talk with them. Hear their story, walk with them, guide them, not really telling them, this is what you need to do. Guide them. So that now even the case of a brother here, we need to understand what really made him to be in that position. And instead of sympathizing with him, we need to empathize. Ask yourself, suppose we were also in that situation, what would you do? And of course, the great thing that can happen to him right now is to look back. The way you asked him, can you be able to retract yourself? And then, of course, yes. And then let that story be a story that can encourage somebody. I have a story whereby my daughter died in 2019 in a school accident. And when the daughter died, together with 7 others, she was about to do class 8. I wrote a book called You Are Not a Failure, and I featured that story there. So even if I remember the story, it doesn't really pain me. Of course, as a parent, there's a lot of pain, but when I remember, it doesn't cause me to just sit down and say, oh my goodness, what really happened? It is just to encourage others, those who have ever gone through a traumatic situation, you can be able to rise up again and you can be a star. That's exactly what would happen to you. Just use your story to tell others how not to, so that you can be able to see where you are right now and move forward.
That was very interesting and very encouraging. Actually, I understand right now, we are starting with, I hear there is millennials. What's a millennials there is? Gen Zs. Then right now I hear,
we have Gen Alpha.
Gen Z's Alpha.
Yeah.
Actually, I was looking for that name yesterday. Right now is when it's coming to my mind, the Gen Z's Alpha. And I'm like, if you're having, right now when you're interacting with people, the youth, the mentors, you'll hear the Gen Zs being mentioned a lot because of a lot of dynamics that is happening around. Even when we're talking about mental health, they are the most affected. My question would be, how much would be the Gen Z's Alpha affected when it comes to all these things that we are talking about? This is something maybe we can talk about after the break. And to you, at 20, actually, I think you're the first young man who is so troubled to be a father at 20. Our wengine, they dash and flee. But you mentioned something very significant. What do we imagine if you're a father at 20 and you're not working and all this? The pressure is there. We do agree. But what happens, that is what is bringing about what you're talking about today, the men's mental health, and also why the girl child is being supported so much and the boys are being forgotten. Because at 20, I'm assuming the person who ended up being a mother with your child was younger than you. So if the person is younger than you, then I'm assuming she is in high school or something. So if you are 20, she is around 15, 16, or 17 at most. If you look at it, you at least you're done with maybe schooling or you're working, but she has to leave even without finishing her Form 4. So did you guys think about it rationally in that perspective? Or is it what we are terming it as just a pleasure for a moment? That is something I'd want you to talk about, and also tell us more on how this one has affected you as a person and what cautions that you have taken moving on forward. Viewer, I hope you're learning as much as I am. Interact with us across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. We'll be back shortly.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 소위 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가
and he was put into the tomb
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being
우리
crucified.
죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our
그래서
sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Welcome.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back, viewer, to Chungu cha Jamii. Today we are talking about men's mental health. Do you have a brother, a cousin who is a male species and is going through mental issues? Send us your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa, or SMS line is 21144. So before we went on a break, I'd ask you guys two questions individually, and maybe to start with you, could you tell us what you have learned, what different you would do, and what you are doing right now moving forward from your story?
You know, at first, venye tuseme mrembo wangu, acha nimwite mrembo wangu, venye alipata mimba, she had to stop schooling, of which it's bad, it's not good. So hiyo ni nini ya kwanza, disadvantage. Then it seems like you have to you have to get more money because now you're having a family. It's not you being alone. You're 3 now. So that's not easy too. Ningepata chance, like, not ningepata, naweza pata chance bado. I'll take her to school, bado at school, but this only after many years, maybe 3 years ama 4.
Why?
Of which, because of the child, she's still young. Ndio ako mwaka moja sasa hivi. So like ndio huyo mtoto aanze tuseme kukua mkubwa, aanze kujichunga ama aachane na mama yake ama aache kunyonya. It would be like 3 years. So that's a disadvantage to her. And she's still young. Ndio tu alikuwa ameanza shule like a university student. Yeah.
Already she had finished Form 4.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, like I mentioned, you're the first young man that is open to say the troubles that you guys go through at a young age, because when they flee and dash and though, please forget about even they even don't feel it for the girl child. I think this is why we are having a lot of girl child empowerment, and you're forgetting about the man. So as a young man, and what you've been able to go through, how has this affected you mentally?
You know, every day I have to go at home, I think about, kuna watu wanastahili wakule mahali. What am I supposed to take at home? Si kama venye nilikuwa peke yangu naweza enda kwa kibanda tuseme nikule kamboga ka 60 bob nilale. So it has really affected me a lot because now you are like a family. Siko peke yangu. And it's not that easy. That's why unasema watu wanahepa. Gen Zs wanapata watoto wanahepa because it's not that easy. Unapeleka mtoto kwa mzazi anakuambia, "Hey, mimi sijui ni mwanaume." You have to take care of your kid. What will you do? You'll just find anything to do, ataka nikufagia mahali ndio uweze kuchunga familia. Yeah.
Is it easy?
It's not easy at all. It's never that easy. Yeah.
How has this affected in the sense of, your performance in terms of work, is it affecting you and drilling you in that regard? 2, is it have you taken it to be a motivation or a stepping stone for you to, have you embraced it, for lack of better words?
Oh, at first when I was not having a child, I used to like to maneuver everywhere. So when you just get a child, it's like you have to work. Hakuna titafadhali. You just have to do something.
But is that not advantageous to you?
It is, because it has really opened my mind. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Coming back to you, Mr. David.
Yes.
Listening to him, and also young people that are in that stage right now, the young men who are in, right now we are having, when you're talking about teenage pregnancy, we'll have a lot of ladies who are in that stage.
Yeah.
And if you find out with the statistics, you'll find that the people who are responsible are also young men. And when they are told, he has put it rightly, mtoto anachunga mtoto, and also a young mother becoming a mother, a young girl becoming a mother. Let me correct that.
Yeah.
And now, mtoto analea mtoto hata hajui what he or she is doing, both of them. No experience, zero, nothing. He has stated that if you take your child to your parents, not every parent will agree to help you to raise the child. And others have no parents, absolutely. How do you talk to these young men in this situation whereby they now have to think not only of themselves, but also over a wife, added responsibility, and now a child? Well, they were thinking they're just here for fun, for pleasure, as they continue to grow themselves.
I'll start by saying that we have a challenge in the society now, how to raise boys into men. The reason is the boys, or maybe the generation that we have today, is so much informed by the media.
True.
Yet, they don't want to be counseled, they don't want to be guided. I would want to differentiate between men and males. Men are responsible. Males, their main business is just to scatter the seed without being responsible. And we have so many males who have not grown into men. They are still males, and most of them are still boys who are wearing a beard in the name of a man, but their mind, their thinking, their responsibilities is not yet defined. So we have to be very categorical on that. And at times, you find some males wanting to be men, yet they are not yet men. Because every male who wants to be a man, number one, we said they have to be responsible. They have to think rationally. Men are people who think and they weigh options. They are not driven by emotions. Because when somebody is driven by emotions, can do anything, and yet comes back later and says, oh my goodness, this was wrong. But as much as you may have been a male and you have messed yourself, you can still grow into a man. By sitting down with yourself, analyzing yourself, and saying, here I made a mistake. When you talk about the mental health, is to realize that I am wrong, I went astray, I need help, I need assistance, I need guidance. And then move from where you are, because you can't keep crying from where you are. Yes, mistakes happen, accidents happen, but then you need to ask yourself, what next? What am I doing? Because life has to be lived. It's only that probably our guest has not told us, but it is true, that when this kind of an incident happens, whereby a child has fathered a child with another child, a child has fathered a child with another child. Now, the child which has been fathered or mothered, the parents, they actually hate the kid. Why? Because they look at that kid, that child, as the reason why they're in that mess. But when they were enjoying themselves, the pleasure of the minute,
They didn't think
they
about it.
never had that in mind. They were actually saying, kaende, kaende.
Kaende, kaende. What do you have to say about that? Because ukicheka, it means you're confirming, eh? Ni kaende, kaende.
But then kaende cause mtu si ati ana nini, like being a Gen Z, si ati anataka mtoto at that particular point. It's just kaende as he's saying. Then all of a sudden, boom, you have something. Or
Who is
somebody.
God?
But I would like to also to come in and say, I would also like to come in and say, as much as you are enjoying yourself that time, you know, the product of your pleasure is this girl or this boy. So this child has every right to live. So as much as we say, well, we can see this product, it is not what we intended, but this product has come. So this product has to be given a chance to live. Now,
This product is a child.
Yes, it's a
What
child.
do you do with this product? No, what do you do with this child?
Just
He has
take care
mentioned
of that
something very
product.
significant. It is so true. Statistics has it that a lot of young parents end up hating their children because they think they are the reason why they are there. Which is more certainly than not, it's not. It's because of their action. That is why they're in that place.
And their
So,
decision.
Yes. What do you have to say? Where are you seated right now with a 1-year-old son or daughter? Would you say you love them to bits? Would you say we all agree, you've said you are not ready for him or her, but now he or she is here. What next for you and for the baby and now for the lady?
Okay, I'll not say it was like an accident, but it happened to be. But ashakuja. So what are you supposed to do next? Take care of that baby, buy her clothes, buy her everything she needs.
That is providing.
That's providing,
But
yeah.
that's physical. Now, I'm asking more so in terms of emotional support. How do you go about it?
Like, I just feel like the baby is supposed to be mine. I'm supposed to guide her. I'm supposed to be her, I don't know, psychology, room to psychology.
No, as in wewe sasa, as the father of your girl, and also the person responsible with now the lady that you are with. Emotionally, mentally, physically una provide. Unaenda boka, unakuja unawapatia food, unawabaia nguo and everything. The emotional support. How are you able to support yourself emotionally, your daughter, and now your baby mama, in the sense of women as they give birth, they go through a lot of traumas. Kama kulikuwa na rejection. Did you face rejection? That would be the first question. And how do you support yourself and your family emotionally?
At first, I would say rejection, like being a Gen Z, it's like a must. Because she was not ready for it because she's too young. So needed time when I decide, will I have a baby with her? So you to come together and decide, tutakuwa na mtoto ama. But all of a sudden, unaona, aborting, it's not really an option. So you just decide, I'll get a baby. Then obviously kuna hizo kutoelewana kidogo. I'm going through. But at the end of the day, she stands to be our in-between. There's nothing that you can do. But there are many challenges.
Well, perhaps
of
now
which,
you have mentioned about challenges, and you say you have already found yourself in this situation.
Yeah.
You cannot run away. One of the things that you can do is actually to have what we call a strong support system. A strong support system is to have a conversation, first of all, with yourself. Agree that I messed. I put somebody's daughter into a box, and you really sealed the box. Now, it is to think out of the box that how are you going to live, from now henceforth. Probably even the parents of your wife, you can say the wife now, they were very mad. How do you just terminate her schooling? You just mentioned about being in the university. So think of how she could have, be a solution giver. But now you're also saying that you can probably take her to school in 3 years to come. 3 years to come is a long period, is a long time. And you see the girl, the product now is also growing up. So the first thing is to confront yourself, agree that I messed. Then you also agree with the girl, she also messed. Look at it, look at her straight in the eye and ask her, out of this mess now, ourselves, the girl, the child that came out of this is not the mess, but the mess that we have found ourselves in now, because we have ruined our lives. What percentage did you contribute in this mess? Maybe she would say 60, or even 30, and maybe 70. You say yes, but now how do you go on? Then of course look for well-meaning counselors who can be able to counsel you from where you are right now and help you to accept the situation. Of course, this situation is stressing your mind, stretching your mind as well, stressing and stretching, because this child has to eat. And then you're asking yourself, how do I get maybe 500 today without maybe getting somebody's getter, without maybe stealing something, all right? So you get stretched, your mind, and then you have to produce. Then of course now, you need also, as I said, part of the support system. Maybe you don't go to church. You need to look for a church whereby you can be able to be connected, whereby the young mother also joins the mothers as well. In fact, when she goes to the other mother, she will be the youngest of course. Yeah. She would probably fit into the youth, but whatever, but let have some people around her. And then something else as well. Even as you do that, you need now to ask yourself, what do I want to do with my life? She could even be doing some business, buy some vegetables, some tomatoes, just there, so that she can also be able to do something as well, so that she doesn't also look like she's the rejected species.
What you've said is actually very correct. I'm smiling and thinking. You've mentioned some business, some vegetables, some tomatoes, and I'm like, the Gen Zs of today, are they even able to do that as a business? Are they even welcoming to that as an idea to start with? Because depending with where you're brought up from and what you envisioned your life to be, scoping to that level, a lot of people are not able to come to that place or position.
I would say this. It's not about Gen Z now. Now, if I put some money here, 1,000 from tomatoes and 1,000 from an office, and then I ask you, please tell me which 1,000 is from tomatoes. No. You can't differentiate.
Sure.
The thing is mentality, accepting yourself to move from where you are.
Sure.
Because of course no one would probably want her in an office with a 1-year kid, of course, but what we are saying is start somewhere as we build yourself.
True.
Gen Z, you mentioned about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I have a Gen Z. My son is in Form 4 right now. He's a candidate. I have a girl who is turning 13. And I have another one which we take care of who is now 11. Now, you see, I have Gen Z and Gen Alpha. The conversation we normally have with my son is very different. It's not a directive. It's a conversation. We're having a conversation. I hear his view. I bring in my view. Then we make a decision together. And of course, there is a lot of liberty, yes. But what kind of a liberty are we giving them? What kind of freedom are we giving them? As much as the phone is there, are they going to every site? No. Tell them, if you go to this site, you will see A, B, C, D. If you have to have a girlfriend now, that will be at the expense of your education. And of course, after you have done your education, you will have a lot that you may want to have with the girlfriends, fiancés, and of course, at the end of the day, you will have one lover who will get married too. But now if you scatter yourself into very many relationships, something will be missing. Same case with Alpha, Gen Alpha. So they'll come with a lot of questions. They are very inquisitive. And what Gen Alpha requires today is honest answers. If he just comes and asks you, excuse me, Eunice, Where did you get this ball from? You see, they are actually learning that in school. You can't cheat them. This is not the time to tell them, you know, I bought them in hospital. No. Tell them exactly what happens. Father and mom
Came together.
came together,
Here you
slept
are.
together, because they are grown-ups.
How open are we in those conversations? to
We are
start
not
with?
open.
We are never open because now I want to come back to you. We've mentioned, David has mentioned about how parents are very open into allowing their sons, their daughters to introduce their boyfriends or girlfriends to them. Actually, with the rate of social media that we are in today, we are having even children out 16, 15, TikToking and very, for lack of better word, proud that they are in that position of whatever they're going through. In regards to that, as a father now, if you are to see yourself in the next 10, 15 years, your daughter will be somewhere you are right now or close to that. Would you allow her to introduce, or would you advise her to introduce whoever he or she's saying to you?
Absolutely yes, because imagine our parents did tell us that sort of a thing. That's why I ended
Did you
up-
say that a girl, your own daughter, who is now 1 year old, when she's 15 years, she brings a boyfriend to you, then she tells you,
She's your boyfriend.
Dad, meet my boyfriend. Would you say yes to that?
Absolutely cannot say yes, because imagine aifanye hivyo like behind the scenes, itakuwa mbaya. So it's better to introduce so that when something happens bad, you'll just have to know it.
So how would you advise that girl now?
Like,
Now that, because you know you already have an experience, you know, that time, you know, you didn't really mean to be where you are right now, but she has come. So how would you advise her? That was the question. I
I'll
think.
just advise her like she's a big person, like
Big person at 15?
at 15 years.
How so? The Kenyan constitution doesn't say that you're a big
That's
person. You're
uncommon.
still a minor. Please.
Okay, I mean according to constitution, but according to her mind, because technology keeps on changing. That's what I'll tell you. Because as like Gen Zs, technology keeps on changing. That's why unajipata uko Instagram, sahii imetokea TikTok, inaendelea ikidevelop. So like when she introduces you to her boyfriend, you'll just have to accept it, but you'll just utamwambia vitu anafaa kufanya, kumfunza like.
As a Gen Z alpha that you're bringing up, and also with the current state that you have been, or you are working yourself through, would you say those are the steps? Would you say you're proud of the steps that you've made and the decision that you've made so far?
No, I'm not proud of the decisions that I've made, but I'm proud of myself being here right now, where I am. Because it is something that has happened. So they usually say, no regrets afterwards. So I don't regret for anything, but it has just come. It is, imekuwa point yangu ya like, what should I do next?
Interesting.
How will I keep this girl child
Growing.
haki yake nini, yeah.
You've mentioned something that maybe I'd want you to walk us through as you also go for a break. You mentioned if you're to take your baby mama back to school, could be in the next 3, 4, 5 years. True? But in the next 3, 4, 5 years, your daughter is also supposed to be in school. How do you plan to deliberate on that?
Maybe working hard, finding a job that is paying, and being close to my family. That's all. Yeah.
Interesting. Viewer, I hope you're learning as much as I am. Send in your question, interact with us across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa, or SMS line is 21144. We'll be back shortly.
everywhere. GBS.
I think dream ya every firstborn mwenye ana work hard ni kubaia mamake nyumba, vitu kama hizo. So tumekuwa tukisave up na mamangu kubai nyumba, so yeah, tutaweka hiyo pesa hapo tu.
Sometimes you move to a single room, one bedroom, then you backfire, you go back to bed
Up and down.
Yeah.
Sometimes she would sacrifice her happiness so that I can go.
So you know.
So I used to work very hard. Nikapita, nikaenda high school, pia nikapita. Yeah.
You made her proud.
Ndio starehe nikaanza kwenda church. Every Sunday we go with them. Walikuwa poa, like walikuwa wanaimba. I used to go and watch.
Went through it with her, everything. Went through it with her. The struggling, looking for money to pay bills, school fees, even with no support from anyone.
Wasichana by this age, mtu akishamaliza high school na anapata mimba. But yeye hata hataki kukaribia hata na boyfriend, sijui boyfriend yake.
Atatuambia. Where did you get money to shoot?
You are not what.
Everywhere. GBS.
Welcome back, viewer, to Chungu cha Jamii. Today we are talking about men mental health. Do you have a brother? Do you have a son? Do you have a husband? Any male species that you are related with or you have come in contact with that is going through mental issues, how do you talk to them? How do you help them out of the mental issues or crises that they are going through? Send in your question, interact with us across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa, or SMS line is 21144. So before we went on a break, we had asked you a question and put you on a rim light, which fascinated us, or rather me, I was fascinated with your answer when you said you'd appreciate when your daughter introduces you to her boyfriend than doing it behind your back. You had said something very significant. There is time for everything. I do not dispute, I stand to be corrected as you also take us through this as a counselor. Time for everything. There is a time for schooling, there is a time for watching, there is a time for playing games, there is a time, even in school timetable, curriculum, it's there to guide us. That one is an exception. But you asked a question, what happens if they are going behind your back? It is true, we agree and we allow our children to socialize. But what I always say, you socialize but not specialize. Meaning, there's no way I'm expecting my daughter today to tell me John is my special friend and Kevin, Brian, and who, they're just friends. You see, there's a difference. Yeah. They are all friends, but she has chosen to specialize with John and to socialize with others. So to me, as a conversation I'd have, socialize with them all, don't specialize with anyone.
What if she feels inside like she has something for John?
It's okay to have something for John. It's okay to have feelings. But what are you doing with those feelings? David, what do we tell to this girl child? What do we tell to this boy child today as we are going through these mental issues? It's because, one, we are also having boy child who are going through a lot of traumas, a lot of broken homes, and not even knowing themselves as the boys they are. And now, mentioned something very significant. Feels. These are feelings. Today you feel so good about me. Nikikubo, you don't want to see me tomorrow.
True.
So your feelings comes and goes. How do you handle that?
I would start by saying that feelings are not our friends. And then we also need to know there is something called child development. That is from 0 years to 3 years. they have their own distinctive way of communicating. Then there is 3 to 5, there is 5 to 7, 7 to 9, then 9 to 12. Now between 9 to 12 is a period whereby most children, they are actually learning now to learn about themselves. They are almost running to pre-teens. They're actually pre-teens. So they know a lot of things. Now, when you talk about feelings, the girl who is 11 years, 12 years, actually some of them start menstrual cycles when they are 10 years, 11 years. And they feel they are now grown-ups. But that is not the reality. The body is still developing. Then now we go to teen, 13 to 19. This is a period characterized so much with wanting to experiment with themselves. When we were in Sunday school, even now, we talk about kindergarten now, we talk about PP1, we talk about PP2. They are taught some songs to learn about their anatomy. They touch some parts of the body, they say, these are my private parts. Nobody should touch them. And now you see, when somebody is a teenager, there's no problem with having some wet dreams because that is part of growing up. But then, the introduction now of this special friend, you mentioned about socializing, but not specializing. I would like to say the teenage, between 13 to 19, you can have acquaintances, people that you can relate with, your peers, same school, different school. Like if your son is in a boys' school, let him interact with a girls' school during sports. Let them interact. That's a healthy interaction. But then after acquaintance, when they do Form 4 KCSE, they are now young adults, they are going to university. University, there's a lot of freedom there. But then they need to be guided as well. At school, there's some limitation of freedom. In the university, there's nobody will check you where you slept, how you slept, have you come with the combed hair or what? No. You are responsible, you're like your own. But then we need to guide them in such a way that as much as there is a lot of information out there, we need to tell them what you do with what you know is your own responsibility. But then, the issue of bringing in now a child, introducing another child as a special friend is neither here nor there. Why? Because there is a time for everything, as you say. Actually, that's the book of Ecclesiastes, the preacher. Ecclesiastes. Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. He tried everything, including 700 concubines. Is this concubines or wives? Let's say 1,000 in total. Now you even wonder how did he satisfy them? Now even if you try one every day, that is 700 days. That means 2 years. Imagine you have not seen your husband in 2 years and you say that you are married. Anyway, that's a story for another day. He tried everything, including foolishness and madness. But then what we are saying is there is a gap in men. Even those who have grown from male to man, there is a gap because they can't make a sound decision. Sometimes making a decision is disastrous. They make a wrong decision, and then what they do, instead of seeking help, they keep it to themselves. Then they think this is good, this is cool. This morning I was having a conversation with some men, and I was saying that in African culture, men have been conditioned that you have to be tough. You can't even cry openly. But I say from today, hear me this well. Men, if you're going through issues, cry. Let that tear come down. Don't bottle things up because it will break. And once you break, there's no future. Have somebody to hold your hand. Have somebody to hug you and say to you, it is okay not to be okay. It is okay not to be okay.
I'm being told we are running out of time.
Okay.
We need to give our parting shots. Maybe starting with you. What would be your parting shot in today's conversation?
I will say, being a Gen Z, maybe umejipata tu like uko na mtoto, uko natarajia. Just be a mentor to your son or to your daughter. Wachukulie serious. Be just with your family. Usikuwa ati ni ule mtu useme umezaa mtoto unapeleka mtoto kwa mama mchunge. And you're capable of that. Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting. And to you,
Two
sir?
things I would want to say as we close this is, if you're a man out there and you are feeling that you are not right, even in your walking, in your decisions, please seek help. Seek help. Don't stay alone. Seek help. Don't stay alone. Secondly, men of nowadays, there is a lot of responsibilities. And if there is something which is overwhelming you in a certain level, it doesn't demean you that you are not a man. If you went a little bit back to re-strategize and rethink, instead of trying to maintain a certain level of ego, which is actually destroying you. There is always time to change. Rev David Jero is my name. You can connect me on Facebook, David Jero Pastor. Thank you.
Welcome so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for honoring our invite and gracing this topic today with a very fruitful conversation. Viewers, let's continue this conversation online. Send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa, or SMS line is 21144. Till next time, have a nice time. Goodbye.